I'm Rick Collins, and this is Off the Bench. Today we're going to be going over MLB playoffs, Texas Rangers offseason. We've got Thursday night football tonight, and then we've also got a little bit of soccer review. So, Jeff, I've got Jeff Wilson on the line. Jeff, take us through last night with the Yankees win. This is still a very young team. There were questions about Joe Girardi and what was going to happen with him if they didn't win this series. How did they put together such a big game last night?
Well, it's kind of they got a pretty good starting pitching performance from Sabathia. They're both the Yankees bullpen's been phenomenal. With Robertson, a former closer, suddenly now working multiple innings, and Canely, and then Aroldis Chapman and his ability to get 6-out saves. Obviously not the same way Mariano Rivera did it, but like Mariano Rivera did for all the great Yankees teams, coming in and shutting things down. They did enough offensively. I think Corey Kluber, the Indian starter, I think he's out of gas. He was a little bit banged up this year, missed 4 starts. You got to keep in mind, last year he with the playoffs, he was working every third day, and I think that just takes some wear and tear on guys. Especially in this day and age when guys don't throw a lot of innings, like they used to. I think he's got worn down, and you could tell his mechanics were not where they usually are. So I think it was a combination of things. But it goes back to game 2. The Yankees could have won it, and or really the questionable decision by Girardi to not challenge the play, but they won game 3. That was the big one. I thought winning that one 1-0. It seemed like maybe kind of took a little bit of the air out of the Indians, who played really poorly, really sloppy the next game, and they never recovered.
Yeah, and we talked about Judge. We've talked about Judge a lot through the playoffs and through the season about what he's been able to do. But he really hasn't. He didn't show up in this series, and he hasn't really shown up in the playoffs at all. It's really been Didi Gregorius who's shown up for the Yankees. And Brett Gardner. Now, everybody knows what Brett Gardner can do, but I'm not sure a lot of people know about Didi Gregorius and what he is capable of doing.
Yeah, he was a pretty highly coveted prospect there in the Arizona system. The Yankees got him, and he hasn't been. Well, first of all, he's the guy replacing Derek Jeter. So that's I think there's a little bit of pressure that comes along with that, and that was a couple years ago. And now he's kind of developed into him. He's become himself, come to his own, I guess. He's obviously he's got some power, and it's not just the Yankee Stadium effect. It's hard to hit home runs at Jason's Field, especially when it's really cold out. But he knocked a couple last night. He's played well throughout the playoffs. The guy's just a good player. He really is. And when you talk about top shortstops in the league, he's got to be in the discussion in the top 5. So that's a good player right there. Brett Gardner, like you mentioned, the Yankees are young. They have Judge, who's a rookie, Gary Sanchez, who it was his first full season at catcher. He's still got some growing to do. Luis Severino in the rotation, great bounce back year after being so terrible last year. So they have young guys, sure, but they've got a good mix of veterans. Starlin Castro is a smart ball player, and he's a good player. Garner, like we mentioned, so the mix it's kind of a perfect mix. It's not too dissimilar from Rangers teams in the past that have been successful.
Yeah.
The one next year that has a chance to be successful. I think the Yankees are a good model for a lot of teams, including the Rangers, to follow going forward.
So now the Yankees have a lot of momentum going into this next series. The Astros have had a few days off. What does that series look like? It looks like it's likely going to be Tanaka versus Keuchel in Game 1. What are your thoughts about that series?
Well, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but just judging from the past few seasons, the Astros have really had the Yankees number, and I think it's obviously home field advantage is one thing, but I think that this is the Astros are the clear favorite. The way they played against the Red Sox was really encouraging. they got the pitching they needed. The bullpen was good. The offense was great. So the Astros are looking like the complete team they looked like the first 50 games of the season. But yeah, momentum momentum is a legitimate thing. I think that Tanaka has pitched well at times. He gets, I think, an advantage because the Astros' best hitters are all right-handed hitters. When you think of that lineup, Correa, Altuve, Springer, Gurriel, Josh Reddick's a left-handed hitter. He's a nice hitter. McCann, who knows the Yankees well, is a left-handed hitter. But I think Tanaka, Severino, those right-handers might have a decent chance of slowing down the Astros.
Yeah, and talking about Severino after his game one, I'm going to call it a disaster. It probably is not as bad as that, but can't make it out of the first inning. Do you think he's going to end up being one of the first 2 or 3 pitchers that they throw out there against the Astros?
Yeah, I think with the breaks in the schedule, I guess they don't get a ton of time off, but I would be shocked if he isn't. I mean, he's just a special talent. I mean, if you go back and look at their stats from the other night, the pitchers they threw in that victory, Severino included, their average fastball was like 97 miles an hour. I mean, he's a young power arm with power stuff. Good slider. He's a star. I mean, he's a future star if he's not already one. So I think that he will definitely pitch. I'm not sure when he's back. He'd be ready again, probably game 4. It's always good to have a veteran, but I'm leery of left-handers against the Astros. But Severino's as good as the Yankees have, and they need him for the series.
Going to the National League, Washington Nationals, they're having trouble hitting. They got a win last night. The whole controversy was Strasburg going into that game, but he ended up deciding he did want to pitch after complaining of being sick. Do they have high expectations there? I mean, it's been 6 years and they've been knocked out of the playoffs at this level in 4 of those 6 years.
Yeah, I think they're very high expectations. They have 2 of the best pitchers in baseball on their pitching staff, and then the rest of the rotation is not bad. You look at the year that Gio Gonzalez had, kind of came out of nowhere, but he has it in him to pitch like that. Then you have Bryce Harper. You're running out of time with Bryce Harper before he becomes a free agent. Daniel Murphy has turned into a terrific signing. Ryan Zimmerman had a really good rebound year. Then you have Turner, the Turner kid, Trey Turner, the speedster, the star in the making. Anthony Rendon, a solid player. So there's a lot of guys there. There's a lot of money there. The White Sox have done, the Nationals have done a ton in trying to acquire, help for the Nationals and trades. They remade the bullpen with Doolittle and Madsen. So a lot's been done to get the Nationals into a position to win. And then they have that pretty big payroll too. So if I'm the Lerner family, I'm looking for at least a league championship series.
And if
at least advancing, and they gave themselves a chance by winning yesterday.
And if they make it after a win tonight, let's say, do they have a chance against the Dodgers? Do the Cubs even have a chance against the Dodgers with you, Kershaw, and Hill? I mean, that just seems like the most formidable, 3 pitchers to start any kind of series with.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's pretty good. And then Wood would start game 4, so and he had a heck of a year. So, yeah. I mean, there's always a chance. I mean, nobody thought the Yankees were going to beat the Indians. So I think that's proof enough to line them up and play the games and see what happens. And the Dodgers have had their problems obviously throughout the year, especially there in August and September when they went 1-17, I think. So
yeah.
They're definitely not a perfect club. They had the most wins in baseball, and for a while they looked like they were going to challenge the all-time wins record. Kershaw got hurt, but he's back. He's not a great playoffs pitcher. He wasn't very good in Game 1, to be perfectly honest. So we'll see what happens there. But I would think they're the favorite. They can have a ton of offense. Obviously, they have a ton of pitching. They have the best closer in the game. So they're going to be pretty formidable. But the Cubs have the experience. The Nationals have Strasburg and Scherzer. I think Scherzer would be available for Game 1. So they definitely would have enough to go at them.
So, World Series prediction, I had the Astros and Dodgers in the World Series. Your thoughts on the World Series?
Well, it's hard to argue with that. I especially now that Cleveland's not in it, I think Cleveland would have been a real tough matchup for the Astros. You think that getting the wild card winner is gonna kind of open the door for them. And the National League has been the better league all year. You have the reigning world champions fighting for their lives tonight, potentially in the mix against the Dodgers in the championship series. I think that whichever team wins the National League will win the World Series. I just think they're the better league this year. But I don't know. The National League's a tough one. I guess you can go with the chalk and pick the Dodgers just because they were the best team from start to finish. I can't really argue with what you got.
Good. When we come back, we're going to talk Texas Rangers offseason.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
And we're back with Jeff Wilson from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, talking Texas Rangers offseason now. Jeff, is John Daniels going to get let off the hook after the last 6 seasons of really unsuccessful baseball for the Rangers?
Well, I disagree with the premise there. I mean, I don't know what they've made the playoffs 3 times, played in an extra game to go to the playoffs another time. Had one year that was completely ruined by injuries, and then this year they weren't eliminated until game 156. So this year was disappointing, no doubt. It's been disappointing that they haven't been back to the World Series, but they have won 2 divisions in those 6 years that you're talking about. So and one of them was completely unexpected after the 2014 season. So I don't know that he's on a hot seat. I know people would like that. I know people want him to go to a World Series like they did in 2010 and 11. People think that since Nolan Ryan has left the organization, John Daniels hasn't done much. Well, look, I think there's a lot of misinformation about just how involved Nolan Ryan was in the day-to-day operations of the team and putting together rosters and signing free agents. That was all John Daniels' work. So Nolan had a say in it, but Nolan wasn't negotiating with Scott Boras, for instance, on the Adrian Beltre deal. So I think that there's some misconceptions out there about that. Look, John Daniels has gone all in the last 2 years. There's the last 3 years. The farm system's depleted. It takes time to rebuild that. He went all in for the right reasons, to win world championships. The payroll this year was to help them bridge the gap until the farm system was closer to ready. And I think next year you'll see more guys, when called upon, more talented guys coming up. But the Rangers are going to have a good team next year. They have work to do this offseason involving the pitching staff. But the core of the offense returns. Offense that was 3rd in the league in major leagues in home runs this year. An offense that has two budding stars, Gallo and Mazzara. I think that John Daniels is doing just fine.
Yeah, and then so they made the first move, which was by far the most important, which was picking up the option on Jeff Bannister. clearly a key cog to moving forward with this team. What do you think's the next move that they make?
Well, they can't really do a lot until free agency opens, and that won't open until the World Series ends. So, you're kind of in a it's kind of a dead time. The Rangers could, for example, re-sign their own free agents. They could reach a deal, say, in theory, with Andrew Kastner, though Kastner said he's going to hit the open market. They could sign Carlos Gomez if they feel that's the best way to go. But they're in the planning stages. They're going to have organizational meetings, pro scouting meetings next week in Arizona. And they do it every year, and they'll formulate their plan then. But right now, until the World Series is over and until everybody's a free agent, you're kind of sitting still.
Yeah, I wondered, you have Tyson Ross and Andrew Kastner as kind of the guys you think they might try and pick back up as their own free agents. Clearly, the pitching staff is probably where they're going to spend a lot of the offseason. We just talked about, what would they do with Mazzara and with Joey Gallo, and, they've got a lineup that can hit. Maybe not as consistently as everybody would like, but the pitching staff seems to be where a lot of the moves are going to need to be made, two of which are they going to chase Yu Darvish, and are they going to chase Ohtani?
I think they'll for sure be in on Ohtani or attempt to lure him and then have him be the one who have them be the team he selects to negotiate with if he's posted. I mean, it just with the economics of the game and the system that he falls under, he's too good of a bargain and too good of a player to not try to pursue. And I think the Rangers are in the mix for sure. They have the most. They can offer him the most money. They obviously have a history with Yu Darvish, who Ohtani works out with in the off season and considers to be one of his idols. So there is that in their favor. Working against them is that there are 29 other teams.
Yeah.
It's a crapshoot, really. And then it's not like he can negotiate with try to get a feel with multiple teams, but then once he chooses one, that's it. So it's a different situation. Darvish, I don't know. The Rangers when they spoke with him the week before the trade deadline, they explained to him that they might attempt to trade him, that he might be traded, but that it's not anything that he's done. It's just sort of the business of baseball, and that they would be very interested in talking to him in the offseason, and Darvish was open to that. The question is how much money is Darvish going to get? Probably not $30 million a year unless he has 4 more outstanding starts in the postseason. I would think he's somewhere in the 22 to 27 range. A number of years is an issue. He's 31. He's going to be 32 during next season in August, I believe. So he's coming off of Tommy John surgery. So is this a guy that you want to sink a ton of years into? Somebody's going to. The question is if it'll be the Rangers or not. Their advantage is that he lives in Dallas. He likes Dallas. And he's not a guy who likes change. He knows the organization well. So from that standpoint, they're in good shape. It's just do all the dollars line up, and it very well might not.
Do you think that chasing Ohtani and chasing you oppose each other in this offseason?
I do to a sense. I don't. I've been told by a lot of our good friends in the Japanese media who have said that Ohtani would like to play with Darvish on the same team, and then there's also been people who say that Ohtani wants to come here and be his own guy. Show the world that he is the best player from Japan, which he probably is. So I think that if the Rangers signed one, they wouldn't be able to get the other, especially if Ohtani was the first domino to fall.
Out in the field, do you see any major changes? You had Beltre really hobbling at the end of the season, does he end up moving more towards a DH role this offseason? And they try and move Gallo more into the field? What are some different scenarios that could occur in the field?
Well, I would expect that Adrian Beltre will be the Rangers' third baseman. He was injured there in August 31st, playing third base. Look, the guy's 38. He's going to be 39 in April. He is going to be in his 21st season. So I mean, there's a lot of miles on this guy, and injuries are going to happen. And really, probably when the Rangers first signed him, he was getting into that stage in his career where injuries would be more prevalent. He plays through most of them. He plays through most of them very effectively. So it's always a concern. There might be more days where he is the designated hitter. Having Gallo on the roster is an asset in that regard because he can move from first base to third base a couple days a week if needed. So and Shin-Soo Choo proving to be durable was also kind of a big boost for the team because he doesn't need a DH as much as they were thinking. So it could be that as time goes on that Beltre DHs more in an effort to keep him on the field, but I don't think it's anything close to full time, nor do I think he would be at peace with that decision.
In the outfield, specifically center field, do you see somebody in the development stage who could potentially make this opening day roster? I know that's the position that they've struggled to fill for quite a few years now. Delano DeShields, they've really tried to slot him in there, but it hasn't worked out perfectly. Is there somebody coming up, or do they feel like they've got the person on the roster now, or is there somebody that's going to be a free agent that we should be looking at?
Well, Carlos Gomez is the free agent who I would think would be most likely to be retained if the Rangers feel like DeShields can't play center field well enough. The Rangers like Gomez. They like the energy he brings. They think he's a quality person. So from that regard, they like him. They don't know how much money he's going to want. He was $11.5 million player this year. I don't think the Rangers want to put that kind of money into a position player unless all their starting pitching options fail. I'm just a huge Delano DeShields guy. I don't understand the defensive problems. I see him covering a lot of ground, making a lot of plays that other center fielders don't make. His arm, understandably, is not great, but the Rangers at the same time admit that he's done other things from release to positioning himself better when he makes the throw to make that arm not as much a liability. So and then offensively, the numbers are just there. You look at what the Rangers record when he's been in the lineup and when he's not in the lineup, and the Rangers record when he scores a run. It's just obvious that this guy makes the team better.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the hesitancy is. And he's an affordable option. That's another thing that works in his favor. The guy is not even going to be paid $600,000 this year.
Yeah.
So you get a huge savings there, and you get a player who just gives the lineup a spark and makes them better. So I don't understand that one at all. Why they won't commit to him. The best prospect in the organization's name is Leody Taveras. He's 18. He played in high A this year, low A this year. So he's probably a couple years away before even getting a sniff. But he's a guy that in 3 years, let's say, will be the center fielder of the future.
All right. Thanks so much, Jeff Wilson, for calling in. We've got more coming up. Actually, I misspoke earlier. We don't have soccer today. We've got FISD high school football. But before that, we're going to have a Thursday night football preview. So we got Thursday night football tonight. Thanks to Jeff Wilson for calling in earlier to talk baseball. But tonight, a big game for Thursday night. We've looked at the last couple of Thursday night teams, games. The teams haven't been all that great. Tonight, we got two teams that are 4-1. Both teams have really dynamic offenses. We're looking at the Carolina Panthers and Philadelphia Eagles. Both quarterbacks have been phenomenal this year. Cam Newton started out a little slow. He's been picking it up and picking it up quick. One of the things that we want to look at tonight is McCaffrey going to get into this offense? Because part of the problem so far this year is they haven't really figured out how to get him more involved. Jonathan Stewart has been taking a lot of the rushing efforts. McCaffrey getting involved in the passing game a little bit more, but Cam Newton is not looking for him. He's looking at Ed Dixon now that Olsen's out of the lineup. He's been looking down the field for Funchess and Benjamin. So getting McCaffrey involved is going to be big for the Carolina Panthers tonight. The Philadelphia Eagles defense has been spectacular so far this season and has been a huge help to Carson Wentz in getting the offense going and not having to, make sure that we're playing catch up in games for the Philadelphia Eagles. One of the concerns also for Philadelphia looking at tonight is that Lane Johnson is still out. He's in concussion protocol, so they're going to have to be without their starting left tackle. I think they're going to be fine, but with Peppers, and Carolina's defense rushing the passer, they're going to make it a challenge for Wentz to be successful tonight in the game in Carolina. Sorry. And look, Carolina's defense is what is keeping them going. Carolina's defense is getting the offense back on the field. They're not staying out there very long. They gain a lot of 3-and-outs. Their defense versus an offense that's been extremely successful on third down, with Carson Wentz being the most successful quarterback on third down, is going to be the test of this game. Can Carolina stop Carson Wentz on third down, or is Carson Wentz going to continue his success and get the Philadelphia Eagles into the end zone? Part of what has been the problem for both of these teams is converting when they're in the red zone. They're both big play opportunistic teams, but in the red zone, both teams have struggled. Now, Philadelphia is also without their starting back, Darren Sproles, from the beginning of the season, and LeGarrette Blount has been amazing stepping into the running back role. They've needed a bruiser for a couple of years now after LaShawn McCoy left, and LeGarrette Blount has been phenomenal for them. Without Darren Sproles, they've lost a little bit of that outside attack, but they haven't needed so far this season. They're getting the ball down the field with Ertz. They're getting the ball down the field with their other wide receivers. They're being successful on offense. It's also going to be a question for Philadelphia. Is their defense going to be able to hold up against Cam Newton? The one thing that Philadelphia has to do is keep Cam Newton in the pocket. They do not want Cam Newton running wild, because that's going to be where they create problems offensively for Philadelphia's defense. Cam Newton getting out in space. He's made a lot of throws on the run, a lot of big throws on the run so far this season, and Philadelphia's defense does not want to let him get out of the pocket. They've got to keep him in the pocket, make him throw the ball down the field, make them beat them on the run. Jonathan Stewart, despite how well he's played so far this year, is not a great running back right now. He may prove us wrong tonight, but McCaffrey is the guy they need to watch out for. Christian McCaffrey getting out into the flats, getting underneath the linebackers, and making plays after the catch. That's what we should be looking for from the Carolina offense against this Philadelphia defense. I think it's going to be a very exciting game tonight. I think it'll end up being very high scoring. I know Jim would agree with me that this is a Thursday night football game to watch. Most of them have not been very watchable, or we expected them not to be watchable. Tonight is absolutely a watchable Thursday night game. One of the other things that we should be looking for going forward in this season from both of these teams is both of them will be making playoff runs. It's just going to be, will they be meeting each other in the playoffs? And that would be really exciting playoff football, especially considering both quarterbacks are young. Both have played incredibly well so far this year. In fact, Carson Wentz has the third highest QBR. And then on the other side, Cam Newton is a top 12, top 13 QBR quarterback. And for young quarterbacks to be playing this well so far in this season is great. And to see Cam Newton really come back from a tough down year for the Carolina Panthers last year is good to see as well. It makes the league better. We go into the rest of pro football on Friday, and then over the weekend, there's a lot of football this weekend, and college football is really getting into the nitty-gritty. We're going to be looking at what is going to happen in the Red River rivalry this weekend. Can Texas show up against Oklahoma? All that and more tomorrow.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? But now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
I'm Rick Collins, and with me is Matt Wixon. Matt, let's talk some Frisco High School football. We'll also mention some other events going on this weekend, but a preview of this weekend. Tonight we've got a pretty even match. Two teams that haven't won a game yet, Frisco Independence at the Star. Kind of give us a quick overview of who's going to take home a win tonight.
Well, my pick would be Independence. I think they're a little ahead of Frisco this year. Like you mentioned, neither has won a district game. I think Independence has been a little more competitive in their games, although I think all the teams can be competitive in this district. But mentioning that they're both 0-2 in district, I don't know if you can go to 0-3 at this point and really have a chance to make the playoffs. So I think that's what makes this a bit of a desperation game for a team. It's now or never.
Yeah, and especially it sounds like for Independence, Frisco is having a tough year. They had a lot of their top players graduate.
Right.
They're playing a lot of younger players, and it just looks like they're a work in progress.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're young. They kind of their year was last year.
Yeah.
They had a nice season and got in the playoffs. And now Independence, I mean, this is just their opportunity. I think when they're looking at their schedule going down the line, this is one they've got to have because there's going to be some of the tougher ones.
Yeah, it's only going to get harder for them.
Right.
So that's the game tonight. Then on Friday, we got three other matches, obviously, Heritage and Reedy. Reedy, amazing win against Wakeland this last weekend. Right. How big of a game is this, and is it a trap game for them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, we kind of fall into that as a cliche, but I think it's probably pretty accurate in this for Reedy because you're talking about a second-year varsity program. This is their first senior class they got now. They're coming off that incredible win for them against Frisco Wakeland, 35-28. I didn't believe in them beforehand. They've let me know it.
Got to believe in them now.
Right. I mean, well, they're a good team. It's just so hard for a second-year varsity program to be where they are. But that being said, every game remains big. And you got to win these games. And when they're playing Frisco Heritage, this is a team that you don't want to say is better than their record. I mean, they got a decent record.
Yeah.
But Heritage played a really good non-district schedule. They played another Heritage, Colleyville Heritage, which is a really strong team. Beat Euless Trinity, a traditionally very strong team. And Heritage, in their first district game, they lost to Lone Star, where there's no shame in that. I believe Lone Star is probably the top team in the district right now. And so Heritage, they have the potential to pull an upset. They have a quarterback named Amari Jones, who is, if people haven't seen him.
Well, I've looked at the numbers, and I mean, phenomenal numbers.
Yeah, he is committed to Tulane, I believe, as a quarterback. And, he can throw the ball. He's thrown 4 touchdown passes, I believe. But running the ball, that's where he's really kind of magical in the open field. If you let him get any kind of space, he's going to get out.
And that's always a tough thing for a new team, especially defensively, to defend, is the quarterback who can get out in space and run, because those linebackers have to be heads up all the time and be prepared. When you've got a quarterback that sits in the pocket, those linebackers can really sit in and just hold their position. I imagine that's where the challenge is going to be this weekend, is keeping him managed in the pocket and not letting him get out in space.
Right. I mean, last week in that win over Wakeland has a very good quarterback, Dylan Cadwallader, but he is more of your classic drop back. He's going to sit in there and he's very accurate and can do some damage that way.
Yeah.
But with Amari Jones for Heritage, it's like you got to cover his receivers, but once he takes off, I mean, you got to react immediately or he's gone.
Yeah.
And once he gets in space, I mean, he's like a slalom skier going through people, and he can break big plays. I think he's averaging about 9 yards per run, which is pretty
That's
phenomenal.
better than most running backs.
Running backs, and he's a quarterback.
Yeah.
He's absorbed a few sacks.
Yeah.
Still in there, he's still averaging 9 yards per run. He's a terrific player.
Awesome. And then Liberty versus Lone Star. This looks like another Lone Star walkover. This last weekend, I believe they did not give up a point.
Right, they shut out Frisco.
And so we expect them to win again. It's going to be tough to beat them this year.
Yeah, I think this is a tough game for Liberty, for sure. Liberty's 0-2 in district.
And unfortunately, it's a game they kind of have to have.
They kind of have to have it, you know, and maybe their coaches sell it that way. You know, this is our chance to go out there and do it and hope that Lone Star is kind of looking past them.
Right.
But on paper, Lone Star really, you know, has the advantages just about in every category in this one.
Yeah. How about Centennial versus Wakeland? Wakeland coming off a big loss to Reedy. To me, this is a message game for Wakeland. They've got to say, no. We are a top 2, top 3 team in this district. They come out, and I think, you know, Centennial's 2-0, so they're a good team. But I think Wakeland's got to send a message this weekend. Yeah,
I think for Wakeland, you're right. You can call it what you want, like sending a message or just getting the ship righted. You can't have a letdown and lose this game because, you know, you lose to Frisco Reedy. Okay, there's one loss. You can't be thinking we want that game back because suddenly now you got 2 losses and you're really in a tough situation. And Centennial, they are 2-0. I would still pick Wakeland to win this game, but Centennial is certainly competitive. They've been, you know, competitive in most of the games, even the ones they've lost. And I think for them, it's a great opportunity because their games are going to get tougher. They still got to play Lone Star. Right. They still got to play Reedy. And then they still got to play Heritage, in fact. And those are some of the teams that I think are all in the mix for the playoffs. So if Centennial can get this win over Wakeland, they got to be feeling, or they will be feeling really good after 3 games.
Yeah, because they are going to have harder matchups. They know they're going to probably take a loss.
Get them while you
down
can in this parity-filled district. Yep.
So also tomorrow morning, there's a cross-country District 13 5A meet at the Warren Sports Complex. The girls start at 8:30 a.m., varsity boys at 9 a.m. What I'm hearing, Carrie Fish is expected to win, and then Colleen Stegman to finish second. You know, cross country, I think it's going to grow in Frisco. It's already a fairly big powerhouse.
A lot of really good programs, yeah.
And it's only going to grow. I think, especially in Frisco, it's kind of what we might call a country club sport a little bit. And, you know, Frisco is a great place for cross country to grow. A lot of programs, and I think they'll get plenty of girls that are going to be able to compete.
Yeah, I think they've got a great pool of athletes, talking about all the programs in the Frisco ISD. And for this district meet, sometimes you don't know until you get to that district meet just where everybody stands, and you know, because you're working toward this district and regional and then the state meet, so that's when you see people peaking. It'll be interesting to see just how it kind of pans out.
Yeah. What about anything else? I know we got volleyball games coming up. We're not quite to playoffs yet.
A couple weeks away.
Anything you see this weekend or upcoming that tells you these teams are ready for playoffs?
Well, I would just say in the Dallas area, we've got Frisco Reedy, Frisco Liberty, Frisco Wakeland in our volleyball top 10, showing you just how deep the area is in volleyball. And then the spots after that, for that 4th playoff spot, 4 teams go from each district. Those are the ones to watch. It's kind of like moving week, if you want to call it, like in golf. You know, this is when you got to make your move. There's some big matches there, so those are usually Friday night, and there's some good ones to go out and see.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Matt. Thanks for coming in. And next week we'll have a review of these games, Matt, and then we'll do a preview. We're coming up on playoff time.